Have you lost the connection with your higher self? Are you noticing the dis-ease of the outside world? It's time to reconnect with nature and each other and raise our consciousness, vibration, and frequency. Together we can create a world of peace and abundance. It's Spiritual Revolution Radio with your host, Dr. Will Miller.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. I'm excited to have Jenelle Simpson on the show today. She is a paralegal, a law clerk, a motivational speaker, and a life coach, and is out of Toronto, Canada. And she's going to talk about her new book, which I'll get into in here in just a minute. But, as we go through the show today and we talk about things, she's going to give us some great ideas for really kind of letting go of that conditioning we have, that past emotional baggage we tend to carry with ourselves. And she's written this amazing book called Commitment to a Deceitful Liar that comes out in October. And welcome to the show, Jenelle. And tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into writing this book and where you come from and what's happening with you.
How I got into writing the book. I was younger, I used to always love to write. I used to write to release. It was like a way of releasing stuff from the inside. So when I was going through something, I'd always grab a pen and paper and just jot down my thoughts. Even if it was like a little poem, nobody knows that I just like to write poems, right?
Uh-huh.
So as I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but also I wanted to do something greater than that when I was younger. But I wanted to be a lawyer, but I also wanted to be a social worker. I wanted to serve people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then about 8 years ago, something came to me and said, write a book. And I really wanted to write the book because I was going through my healing process and going through things in life, and I was breaking generational barriers of my own. And I was also surrounded by people who were struggling to break their own generational barriers and talk about the things that they went through that were affecting them as an adult, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, if I could go through this and get through it and heal, why can't I pass that on to somebody else through a book?
So tell us a little about your history. Like you wanted to be a lawyer. You are a law clerk. You are you work as a paralegal, right? And tell us how you got your path, how you got there, and then all of a sudden what clicked. What in your life brought you to this path that you're on now? Because really, a commitment to a deceitful liar, I love the title, but you're really talking about yourself and what you went through in life and how you overcame this emotional baggage and pain and everything else that you went through. So kind of tell us that story.
So when I was younger, my mom wanted me to be a nurse. I didn't want to be a nurse. I knew that I wanted to do something legal, either a lawyer or a law clerk, mainly a lawyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a struggle. I find that a lot of people, they go to school and they're set on, okay, once I go to school, I'm going to get that job. I'm going to be making six figures and everything's going to be perfect. When I graduated the law clerk program, I could not find a job.
Mm.
It was like pulling teeth. I started taking volunteer work, and I was just getting my feet wet. And I'm like, okay, let me go back to school for paralegal so I can get more experience there, and then hopefully I'll get a job. Finally landed a great job, and when I started working for lawyers, I'm like, I don't want to become a lawyer. Because it sounded easy, right? Okay, you're a lawyer, that's you have that title. But there's so much more that comes with it, right?
Right.
Sleepless nights, you have to go up there and find clients, and you have to serve your clients constantly. And so my placement was in a family law office, and I read some of the stories, and I was like, I couldn't. And I initially wanted to be a family law lawyer, and I'm like, I can't, because I got too attached to people and their story and what they were going through.
Right.
And as I was going through life, it's like God just kept throwing things at me, like random things, people, and I was finding myself, even though I was going through something traumatic in my life, God found ways for me to release and pass on stuff to help them heal. And I realized that I had a higher calling, and my passion was I wanted to help people. So I wanted to start writing more so that people would pick up a book and read. Because a lot of people don't read nowadays.
It is rare.
A book that's raw and authentic, that they will pick up and they can relate to and heal and grow. I'm doing both things that I want to do.
Sure. So where did you grow up? Tell us where you grew up and your history.
I was born in Jamaica. I came to Canada when I was 5. I was in Toronto for a bit, and then I moved to Durham region.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're life coaching now and a motivational speaker. And tell us about your path to get there. What brought you to speaking, and tell us a little bit about what you speak about, if you would.
Everything, anything, real life stuff that people don't want to talk about. Like, for my book talks about rape, and a lot of women, children, even boys go through that, and they're so closed off to talking about it because they feel like people are going to judge them or automatically assume that they know what they went through. But
So
I did. So
go ahead.
sorry. No, you go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, you talk about this in your, so you obviously, you're born in Jamaica, moved to Canada when you were young, 5 years old, and these experiences that you're talking about in Commitment to a Deceitful Liar, these are your experiences you had and what you had to do to overcome, right?
Yes.
So kind of tell us about the book. What is in the book, and what can we expect from the book?
So Commitment to a Deceitful Liar, a lot of people think it's a relationship book, but it actually touches many topics. It talks about, like I said, being raped and telling my family what happened, and then them pushing back and not wanting to deal with me anymore, or making it seem like it was my fault. It talks about breaking generational cycles. Like for me, I was raised in a West Indian home where they had certain myths, and they passed that on to me, and then I ended up carrying it with me into adulthood and almost passing it on to my children. And then I said, no, I have to break it. So for example, growing up, you would hear our parents say, don't eat from this person. And they would, so I don't know if you ever heard of like Obia or voodoo. This is an example. So you would always hear, especially Jamaicans, say, don't eat from that person. They're gonna Obia you, or they put something in the food. You weren't allowed to sleep over people's houses, right? So I built up this wall where I wasn't able to trust people because my mom instilled this fear in me that I shouldn't trust people. So the book talks about now me learning my own new way of life and learning to be open and trust people and love on people. Like being raised in a West Indian home, like a lot of us talk about it, we weren't shown love. It was mostly strict, and my mom never said, I love you. She barely touched me. So I didn't have that affection. I didn't know how to express my affection, but I made up in my mind that I was going to change that for myself and the family that I wanted to create. It talks about forgiveness. It talks about healing with the person that hurt you. It talks about how, how many times do you hear people judge strippers and say that they're nasty? Or, why did she choose to be a stripper? You look down on that person, not realizing that maybe they just like dancing, or somebody brought them into that lifestyle, or they don't think that they can become anything different.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So the book touches a lot of topics.
So if you don't mind sharing, kind of tell us your story, if you would. I'm hearing a lot of little pieces, but it'd be really interesting just to kind of hear your story of because you experience these things. You talk about rape, you talk about dancing, and you talk about stripping, all those things. And I don't know if that's all you. I'm interested in knowing your story. And then what brought you, to this point where you obviously were able to overcome this? I mean, our audience that we have really, a lot of people are struggling with the same things, and it might not be to the same extent. We don't always struggle, all of us, to the same extent, right? But we all need these practices, or these tipping points, if you will, is what I like to call them. These tipping points where we're like, oh, okay, now I see it. Aha, I can. And hearing other people's stories, I think, is a great way for us to get that information and grow. So tell us a little bit about your story.
So for me, when I came out to my parents about my uncle and what he did to me, I expected them to shelter me and protect me, right? Mm-hmm. So when I told, and I went to my stepdad, who I thought was being there for me, but really, though, he wanted to prove to my mom that her family are who he said. So there was always this toxic thing between my family and my stepfather, where they didn't like him. So the whole family dynamics broke apart. So we weren't allowed to go to my aunt's and my uncle's house anymore. I barely saw my dad. And when I came out and told them what my uncle was doing to me, although I thought my stepdad was trying to be there for me, it was more so, see, your family's so bad. Look at what happened to your daughter. Look at what they did to her. And now they're blaming her. Right? So it's kind of like a one-up for him, mm-hmm. which I thought was trying to help me. When I went to the police station, my whole family was at my house, and my mom told me that if I got her brother in trouble, she would disown me, and that I was, pardon my language, a slut, and it was basically my fault. I was about 16 at the time when I told, and I went back to the police station, and I retracted my story and said that I was lying, because I didn't want my mom to, I didn't want her to feel bad, mm-hmm. and I didn't want her to go through any more of what she was already going through with the family. So I went back and I said that I lied, and everything was just the same after that. She would call me names. She was just nasty. So I told her that when I turn 19, I'm leaving. And the night before my 19th birthday, I never went back home. Mm. I moved out. Her and I never had a relationship. When I had my son, she never saw my son. I started going to church, and I felt like I found a home. I felt like when I went to church, those were my family. Like, I felt like I was finally having the family that I always wanted to have, until I realized that I put so much into them and they failed me. But really, I was stuck on, okay, these people were supposed to be there, and they preached the word to me, and they were supposed to support me. But then when the pastor said to me, when I was pregnant with my second daughter, he said to me, "No man's gonna want you with 2 children.
Wow.
You're not married. If you were my daughter, I'm so disappointed in you. Why would you let that happen to you?"
This is your pastor?
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
He told me, "I can't do nothing with you while you're pregnant. You can't serve in my church while you're pregnant." One time I told him that I kept having dreams, and there's something in me that needs to come out. Like, I felt like God was doing something in me, and I couldn't understand it. So I went to him for understanding, and he said to me he has to see where my powers came from, which was even more confusing, because I'm like, where does my power and gifts come from that I don't understand? So after a while, I realized that it wasn't about them. It was about the relationship that I had with God. I was relying on them when I should have been relying on God and building a relationship with him. Yeah. And after I left the church, I realized that more and more that I had a different purpose that some wouldn't understand. It was so great that sometimes God will put you in the fire to break certain things and then build you up. Right. So about a week ago, somebody that used to go to church reached out to me and said that he saw my Instagram page and he couldn't believe it was me, because he thought that I would have offed myself, meaning that he thought that I would have killed myself already. Right. And I said, really? That's interesting. And he said, I saw you come to church every Sunday, and I felt so bad for you because you were literally dead and nobody was helping you. The pastors, everybody would just let you go home and not stop you. And he said, if somebody had given me $1 million and told me that you wouldn't become anything, I would have believed them. And in that moment, I was like, okay, God, you continue to reassure me that even when I'm in the pit, you're raising me up. So I always held on to my faith, even though I was going through stuff, because I knew that no matter what I was going through, God was always going to be there for me. And everything was for a purpose.
So you went through this struggle, and obviously on your own, you know, yeah. And you had to find a relationship with yourself and your with Source, with God, to come out of this. So at that point, what happened? What clicked for you that you just said, I can do this, and you started addressing these past emotional cycles that you had been through? What clicked for you to do that?
My healing. Plenty of times I wanted to kill myself. Mm-hmm. It's before I would never say it that I used to cut my wrist, but I'm okay with saying it because that was a journey for me to get to now. Like, I had to learn how to re-love myself and accept myself. And through my healing, I realized, hey, you got some serious stuff in you that you need to let out and extend to the world, because there's people going through what you went through and even worse, and you have the power to help them. So through my healing, I realized that I had something in me that really woke me up. Like, every time I tried to pull back, it was like God pulled me forward or put me in positions that I didn't even know I was ready for.
And where are you at now? Let's give everybody the good side, the other side that you came out. Tell everyone where you're at now.
Where am I now? I'm at happy. I want to see other people rise and just do a complete 360. My first book is going to be published in October. My second book, I'm almost finished. And that goes more into like a light, like where everything kind of opened up for me. And my brother and I decided to start I don't call it a community, I call it a home for kids, where they can go and we help them with getting jobs and placements and their own healing and being open to saying what's going on in their life without any fear. Because when you're a child and you're going through stuff and you bottle it up, you carry it with you for so long. And as you get into your adult life and you start facing stuff, you realize that, hey, there's something inside of me that's making me react this way. Right. So how do you release? And a lot of people don't know how to just release, let it out. Because remember, you have to be you. I have to be me tomorrow. You don't have to be me. So whatever I'm going through, I have to live it. You don't have to live it. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to ask kind of an interesting question maybe for you, but would you trade that experience going through that and getting to the other side for anything different? Or do you think you really needed this in your life to kind of just maybe write the books and share with others and do the things you're doing now?
No, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade my experiences. My experiences are a part of my growth and who I am now, and how I help other people. See, for me, like I don't think, for example, are you going to take advice from somebody who's never been through anything? Probably not, right? Most people, you're not going to go to get advice from somebody who's never been through a divorce or abusive relationship or some type of trauma. You want to see somebody who's been through it and elevated from it.
Right. I agree.
So I wouldn't trade it.
Awesome. I knew that would be your answer, but I have to ask because I think it's good for people to hear that because everybody goes through their trials, you know, and you know, you're not the only one. You know, these traumas that you have are yours to experience, and other people have theirs to experience, and you know, they're curled up in a little ball and crying and crying for help and lost and desolate, you know, and I think
nowadays nobody's willing to help, right? You might get somebody that calls you for a couple of days and they mourn with you and they say, "Oh, I'm here for you," but it's when you really need somebody who's going to understand that today you're not doing well, and you just need that person to sit there and just listen to you vent. A lot of people won't do it, and I know what it feels like to be at home and not looking at my phone and don't know who to call.
Yeah, you have no one to know. You just don't know who. There's no one, right?
Or who to trust because people turn it around and throw it against you later, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Or you're worried at least that they're going to.
Right.
And obviously in your life you've found those people that haven't. And, you know, you have your children and everything else in your life and you've built some great relationships through, I'm sure, your coaching and everything else that has helped you as well. So
it's interesting because through the book is where I started building real relationships.
Excellent.
And
tell us. Go ahead. I want you to finish that thought.
It's weird because I asked God for all these things and now when he's giving it to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't handle it. But he's giving to me amazing people that I'm going to build like a whole foundation and team with.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing experience.
I'm happy for you. And I'm excited for your book. Tell us a little bit about the book. Comes out when again?
In October.
In October. How do people get a hold of you, find out more about you, and the book and everything else?
Through Instagram right now, at life_deceit, or my personal page, which is at miss.simpson.
Okay. And what was the second one again? Say that one more time.
At miss.ms.simpson.
Okay.
IMPSON.
All right. And you've already got your second book almost written for everyone and ready to come out. So everyone look for it. Is it going to be on Amazon? Where can they find the book?
It's going to be on Amazon. I'm working on getting it on every platform and in every bookstore. I would like it to be in every bookstore worldwide.
All right.
I want to be able to read the book. It has Caribbean feeling in it. It has patois in it.
I like that.
I'm telling you, it's juicy. You're going to love it. It will have you on your seat waiting for the second book.
I have a special
feel what it feels like to be, you know, feel the Caribbean vibe through the book.
Yeah, I like it. I'm excited to see it. Commitment to a Deceitful Liar, coming out in October. Everyone look for it. Amazon, definitely, and every bookstore out there. Look for it to come out. Anything else that you want to say before we got about a minute and a half left here? One message you want to leave with our audience today?
You have to live through your body every day. No one else does. Take control of your own healing. Go through the process. Enjoy the stages because it's beautiful. When you start your healing process and you look back, you're going to be like, damn, I can't believe it's me now. Take control of your process and love it. Enjoy it. It'll be painful. Some days you'll feel like you don't want to go through with it, but I'm telling you, go through with it.
I love your energy and your honesty. Thank you so much for being on the show today. You're
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thanks. So everyone, I'm Will Miller, and this is Spiritual Revolution Radio. I just want to tell you, find me on lifebydesign.institute. Go there and ask to be part of my private Facebook page. I give lots of tips there and help people there. It's Optimal Living Blueprint on Facebook if you want to look at up on just Facebook. Please go there, find me. And if you want to be on the show, want to be a guest, want to learn more about the show, have questions, whatever it happens to be, go to spiritualrevolutionradio.com. That's our website there, and you can make comments there, ask questions there, get on the show there, whatever you'd like to do. Happy to have you all here, and love and peace, everyone. Have an amazing day.
This has been Spiritual Revolution Radio with Dr. Will Miller. For more information or to be a guest, please visit lifebydesign.institute. Join us next week for another edition of Spiritual Revolution Radio with your host, Dr. Will Miller. This has been a production from a podcast studio.